Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate. I'm Rosebud Baker, your host. So excited for this week's episode. I had put out on my social media this week that I was going to be doing an episode on sobriety, and I asked you guys to write in, let me know what you wanted me to talk about, any questions you got about it. And this is not necessarily for people who are trying to get sober or people who are sober. It's just for people who, we've all been stuck in quarantine. We're asking ourselves a lot of questions about our own behavior. We've been given the time to think about how we act and interact with the world. And I feel like, when I got sober, that was sort of my number one. That was the first thing I learned was I just had all this time to ask myself, how have I been operating? What have I been, what have my beliefs been? Who the fuck am I? And, so I feel like even though this episode is about sobriety, I think there's going to be a lot in it for those of you who don't have a drinking problem or don't really want to even bother with asking the question. A lot of you too, it seems from the questions that I've gotten, have people in your lives that suffer from addiction, and you wrote in as well. So I hope to address those questions too. But first, I want to say thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast, for subscribing to this podcast. Thank you so, so, so much, all of you who have left a review on iTunes. I love you. You make my fucking week. You really do. When you leave a review on iTunes, it gives me, it honestly makes me want to keep this up. It makes me want to keep going. And it allows me it makes me feel like this is worth doing, because if you guys aren't enjoying it, then I'm just a fucking narcissist, just talking into a void, asking for attention. And that's not really why I'm doing this. I want to be able to help you guys, and get to know you guys. And I just really appreciate the time that you've taken to let me know that you're enjoying the podcast by screenshotting it, putting on Instagram, writing into DevilsAdvocatePod.ATC at gmail.com. You can also text me now. I don't know if I've let you guys know that yet, but you can text me. My number is 917-540-8395. You can text me there. And if you have anything that you want me to know, but you don't want to put it out there publicly, you can text me there or whatever. Okay. I think we covered all that. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, search for Rosebud Baker. You'll find my channel, and all of the podcasts are on there. So without further ado, let's get into it. You guys know I've been sober for it'll be 13 years in September. That is a long time to get sober. That is not as long as I had planned to be sober. I've been sober so long at this point that it feels like I don't, like when my friends are drunk, I don't remember that they're drinking. That's how long I've been sober. And, it feels like new drugs have been invented since I decided to get clean. But I don't know if I've ever spoken publicly about I know that I have on podcasts and shit, but never on my own, about what got me here and how I got clean. So let me just say this. I didn't even start drinking until I was, Jesus Christ, I don't know, 18 or something. And I put it off as long as I could because alcoholism does run in my family. And I just decided, okay, well, I'm going to control myself. I was like, I'm going to control, none of that shit is going to happen to me. I'm going to control myself. I can outsmart this addiction bullshit. Because I didn't realize, and this is pretty key, I didn't realize addiction is a disease. And when you have a disease, you can't outthink it. you can't like make your way around. You can't avoid cancer if you have cancer, you know? So but I did try. I tried to control my drinking from the first time I fucking did it. And I failed miserably. I blacked out, fell asleep in my friend's yard, in a house where there was a pit bull who was a deadly pit bull. He literally had bitten this guy's balls off. And I fell asleep in a yard that dog had access to. Threw up shrimp that I'd eaten 3 days before. I remember looking at it and being like, holy shit, my digestive system needs to pick it up. It's been 3 days since I ate that meal. How the fuck is it still here? And, you know, I never put this together, but I think that's probably why I don't eat shrimp now. Anyway, so I started from the very beginning. I was a blackout drinker. I loved blacking out. I still don't understand how people don't. I don't know why, you know, when I'm sitting across from somebody and they're drinking wine and they're like, oh, this pairs so well with my pasta. I'm like, who gives a shit? Fucking get wasted. Like, what are you doing? Oh my God. Enjoying wine for its taste. It's like enjoying cocaine for its smell. I just don't. Why do you give a shit? So that's still how I feel about it. I still don't understand why people drink to not get hammered. I guess some people just enjoy being buzzed, but it's like, if you're buzzed, why don't you want more? Yeah, hopefully this will give a little insight into the addict's personality and the way that we think. But, you know, as an alcoholic, as an addict, my main concern is always, how do I get more of what I want? And how do I hang on to what I have so that I don't lose what I have? And I think that is, to a certain extent, just a function of my ego. I think that is not necessarily just an addict or an alcoholic thing. None of what I say here is exclusive to addicts and alcoholics, but I think that with us, it's we just, like everything else, we just take it a little further. So, you know, if you're listening to this and you're going, well, I'm like that too, that may be true, but you might not be an alcoholic, or you might be, you know. Who knows? That's really up to you to decide. And I do tend to get caught up when I'm talking about this stuff because I worry about people who are hearing it going, oh, this person is like trying to tell me that I'm an alcoholic, and I'm not. I don't give a shit if you're an alcoholic or not. I don't care. I really, truly believe this. To each their own. Live your life. It's not up to me to tell you how to live or what to do. I'm a fucking idiot. I have made so many fucking mistakes in my life. I mean, look at me. I'm literally podcasting from my apartment because my job is illegal now. But what the fuck was I saying? I was saying that I tried to control my drinking from the very get-go, and I really fucking, I really failed. I couldn't stop. I just kept going. I smoked weed to try to control it for a while. And then I just became a pothead. When I left for, you know, I was pretty good at controlling it until my sister died. And when my sister passed away, she died at so it was my high school graduation. We were at a friend's house. It was a party for our high school graduation, and she was in the hot tub and she drowned. And when I say she drowned, what I mean is she was entrapped, which is different. It's drowning by entrapment is different than drowning, just drowning. She drowned because she was in this hot tub and her hair got stuck in the drain. And 3 grown men couldn't pull her out of it. 3 grown men tried to pull her out of this hot tub. They couldn't do it. She was taken in a helicopter to a hospital. She was dead before she arrived. She was 7 years old. I was 17. And I mean, when that happened, I just, it's funny, like I kind of bulldoze through that story whenever I tell it, because I still haven't completely processed my feelings around it. And if I were to take, it feels like if I were to take the time to experience that story while I'm telling it to you, this would be a different thing. This would be a monologue, like from Gone with the Wind. You know what I mean? And I just don't, I got to get through my day, you know? But after that was over, like I really had some issues around feeling guilty for her death. I mean, this was like a party that I'd brought my family to for my graduation. And I kept thinking to myself, well, they wouldn't have been there if it weren't for me. And the truth is that that's actually a very selfish thought. It's assuming that I am responsible for the life or death of someone. And I'm not. While I've gone back and forth with my therapist about this a lot, I've been like, well, they wouldn't have been there if it weren't for me. And he's like, well, it doesn't mean that you're not Jesus, is basically what he's trying to tell me. And I'm like, but I am. It's like we have these stories that we tell ourselves, and even though they seem like stories that we use to beat ourselves up, in a way they are stories that make us seem like gods, and we're not. But I really suffered from like that guilt, and I really needed a place to run away from that guilt, and I started drinking like really heavily. And to be honest, I think I would have been an alcoholic whether or not my sister had died. I don't think that the two are connected. Alcoholism runs in my family. If it is a genetic disease, then I would have had it anyway. But even if my family didn't have it, when I was growing up, I would hide food under my bed, go to my friend's house, and think about going home to eat the food alone. Like I'm an addict through and through, have been that way since I was a kid. Like that's my personality. And like such an addict that when I heard there was an opioid crisis, I thought we were running out of opioids. Okay. I thought we were running out of heroin. So that's just the way my fucking mind works. And I, without going too far into like details, I really, alcohol worked for a long time. It helped me get through shit, helped me turn off my mind, helped me feel confident. And I really, it was my greatest fucking tool to like get through living. It allowed me to have fun when I really was in a state of complete fucking depression. And it allowed me to get out of my own head, which is something that I suffered with my entire life. From even before I found alcohol, I used to kind of believe that if people knew who I was and what I really thought and what I felt, that they would fucking hate me. I just had that I just I couldn't speak up. I couldn't like be myself. And, or when I was myself, I always felt like I stood out in a way that I didn't want to. Like, I remember watching Forrest Gump once. I was really high. I'd eaten an edible. I was watching Forrest Gump with a bunch of people in college. And it was the rain scene, you know, when he and Bubba are like getting rained on. And the volume was scaring me. Okay. The volume was so high, it was terrifying. I was inside the jungle with Forrest Gump and Bubba. All right. And I don't want to go to Nam. I thought, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in Nam. And yeah, I was fucking high, but the volume was really insane. I mean, it was violently loud. And I had a panic attack. I remember sitting there having a panic attack about, can I tell my friends to turn this down? All right. That's how deep my self-hatred went, that I couldn't be like, hey guys, it's a little loud. Can we turn this down a little bit? I could not do that. Instead, I crawled out of the room into the hallway as if I was actually in Vietnam. Okay. Crawled on my elbows and knees into the hallway. And that's just so much weirder, you know, like you follow somebody out into a hallway after they've crawled, like war style into, you know, away from a party, and you ask them, are they okay? And they're like, the volume's a little loud. That's insane. Okay. So, I really was I didn't have whatever tools are necessary to kind of like meet life on its own, like with my own resources. I didn't know how to live. And I remember thinking, I just need someone to tell me what to do. I just need like a book or something to tell me how to live my life, because I'm terrified of everything. And it wasn't really until I got sober that I learned exactly how to do that. And it took a really fucking long time. Okay. Eventually alcohol sort of turned on me. I don't know when it happened. There is this line for a lot of alcoholics where you just, there's like there's an invisible barrier at some point. You walk right through it, and the drugs and the drinking, they stop working. Okay. And because we're addicts, we just don't register that it's not working, because it's always worked. So why would it stop working now? You know, it's like if you have a light switch in your house that has always worked and you don't ever have to change the light bulb, the light bulb's always worked, so the light switch has always worked, and all of a sudden it stops working, you would stop trying to switch it on for, you know what I mean? Or you would change the light bulb, or you would adapt, right? But there was something in my brain that wouldn't allow me to register that. And so I would just keep trying to flick the light switch because it worked before. So why isn't it working now? Why is it that every time I try to flick the light switch now, I end up punching my friends in the face? What? You know, so that is what happened. I started getting really violent when I would drink. I would take money from people. I would hurt them. I would hurt myself. I could not understand, you know, how my behavior was hurting others. Couldn't comprehend it, really. Like I would wake up the next day, somebody would be like, you tried to kill yourself last night. And I'd be like, well, I was drunk. And they're like, well, I'm traumatized. And I would be like, why? Because I couldn't understand how I could hurt somebody else by trying to hurt myself. I was like, well, I'm not hurting you. I'm hurting me. So like, why do you care? Do you realize the lack of empathy that you have to have for other people to not be able to understand them being concerned about you? Like, I was really, I mean, I just got so far away from who I am and from myself that I didn't feel completely human. And I certainly didn't feel of use to any human. My main focus and my world basically got smaller and smaller and smaller. I shut my family out. I shut out my friends. I lived with my ex and his metal band. Okay. Metal band? Yeah. In Greenpoint. First of all, I hate their music. I hated their music, you guys. I could not stand it. I don't like metal music. It's not my fucking, I just don't like it. Most of the music that I listen to could be played in a Soul Cycle class. And that's just a fact about me. I'm not proud of it, but it's true. And yeah, sorry, I literally, it's more traumatizing to remember living with a metal band than it is to remember like my sister's funeral. So I moved in with him and his band, and I lived there for about a year. And every time I would drink that year, something horrible would happen. I remember I would go out, I would have every intention of having a great night where we all drank and we made memories and we laughed the next day about them, just like it used to be. And I couldn't do it. I could not get through a single night without threatening myself, somebody else, hurting someone, saying something that I could never take back. And just in general, like putting people's lives in danger. And like, I think it was a really codependent relationship because this guy, I'd moved in with him instead of going to rehab. And I had done that through a series of manipulations, trying to tell my parents that I was going to be taking a flight to DC, booking a flight that stopped in New York, getting out in New York, and never having any intention of going back to DC, getting out in New York and being like, I live here now. So this guy had this sense of guilt that, well, she moved in with me while her parents were really worried about her, so I'll just tell them that I'll take care of her and blah, blah, blah. And, I had like promised my parents I would go to group rehab or whatever it was, outpatient, and nothing ever happened. Like, no, I wasn't going to fucking do that. So because I knew better. I essentially drove this relationship into the ground, and the relationships that I had with his friends, they still won't speak to me. I don't blame them. I really don't. I can't even remember what a nightmare I was, but I do know that when I got sober, no one that I had dated ever wanted to speak to me again. From the time that I started drinking till the time that I stopped, every single ex that I had, I cheated on. Every single friend that I had hurt. So frankly, I cannot blame those people for not ever wanting to speak to me again. And I feel like the best way that I can respect them is to never reach out. That's what I was told by somebody else when I got sober. And I just followed their instructions because I was like, you know what? I don't know how to fucking do my own life. So I'm just going to like listen to what this person says. And this person had been sober for a long time. So I'm getting all these fucking texts. Jesus. I swear to God, it's like the second that I start doing something, everyone and their mom has something that they need to tell me, but I'll be sitting in my house all day doing nothing. And not a single friend will text and be like, what's up? What is that? Anyway, long story short, hopefully this isn't coming off fucking annoying, but long story short, I got in a fight with this guy, this metal band dude, and left the apartment one day, went out, got a new apartment. Okay. Basically came back, was like, we're done. I'm getting a new apartment. This is how it is. And, he like moved to LA. He was just like, he didn't even want to be in the same fucking city as me. So he moved to Los Angeles, and I haven't spoken to him since then. Well, that's not true. He did reach out like when I was like 7 years sober or something, and we talked, and he allowed me to like apologize to him, which was great. But it took 7 years of me trying not to apologize to him because I really wanted to redeem myself. I wanted to be like, look, I'm sober now. I'm so good. Everything's great. And even that was like this self-righteous kind of, it was driven by this self-righteous need to prove myself to be perfect or whatever the fuck. Anyway, so I go out, I get my own apartment, and I spent about 6 months in that apartment by myself, completely miserable. I mean, drinking alone, just literally, I mean, I can't remember getting out of bed any days. I really had just given into, all right, this is it. This is my life. I'm going to drink by myself. I'm going to wake up hungover. I used to pass by homeless people on the street, and I would hate them because of how close I felt. Like I was like, the only difference between me and that person is there's a roof over my head. Like that's how I felt. And I can't believe I'm saying all of this on a podcast. But yeah, it's true. This is what it is, like when you are in the fucking throes of addiction, you're not thinking clearly. You're just like an instinct machine. You just go off of instinct, and your instincts are always based in like fear because you don't know how to live. So, fear, resentment, self-pity, that was like the world that I lived in. And when I experience those emotions now, I kind of have to treat them the same way that I would treat a cold. Like when you have a cold, you don't look outside of yourself to be like, what's causing this cold? You don't blame your cold on who gave it to you. You go, okay, what do I have to do to take care of myself to get rid of these cold symptoms? Like if I'm feeling worry, resentment, self-pity, fear, I have to look inside myself and go, okay, what am I doing that's causing me to feel these things? Or what am I not nurturing in myself that's causing these things? And I really kind of live my life like that now. I think I'm going to get into y'all's questions. I'm sorry. This is a dense fucking episode, but I ended up getting sober one night. I think I explained it on the episode with Michael Blaustein. I went out, I got drunk, I blacked out, I went home, I woke up the next day. I tried to cry. I couldn't even cry. I couldn't even cry for myself because I was like, I know what this is. I'm a fucking addict. And I don't know where that wisdom came from. It literally must have come from, it was like a voice in my head that I couldn't ignore, that I'd been ignoring for a long time, but for some reason this time I couldn't ignore it. And I called this girl up who I'd run into the night before, who had given me her number and told me to come to a meeting. And I got to a meeting, and I got to a 12-step meeting, and I haven't drank since. Now I don't think that's the only way to get sober. I think there's plenty of ways to get sober. Uh, I I don't know of anybody in my immediate life that has gotten sober on their own, um, that has a life that I envy, if that makes sense, or that I would want. Now this is a good place to kind of get into these questions that you guys sent, because somebody said, somebody asked me to address the topic of dry drunks. And a dry drunk is basically someone who has quit drinking but is still unhappy because they haven't learned how to function with any tools other than the alcohol that they had. They're sort of left without any tools to be happy. And listen, I think I've been through periods of time in my life where I have acted like a dry drunk, where I've thrown my addiction into work, or I've thrown it into food, or I've thrown it into relationships, whatever. But a dry drunk is essentially someone who, even without alcohol, is a miserable fucking asshole. And you know, I don't want to sit here like promoting some way of getting sober, because it's just not what I want to do. I'm not interested in doing that. But I will say that if you are sober and you feel like you don't know how to live your life, it helped me to reach out to other people who were sober and who had to get sober and who struggled to get sober. That helped me immensely. I don't think that I would be sober now if it weren't for those people, because they taught me ways to live that I truly didn't know. I didn't know. Like the idea of going to do my dry cleaning, or going to the grocery store, or making my bed in the morning. Shit like that. I didn't do that shit. I was like, that's not me. I don't even there's no way I can do those things. I felt paralyzed with fear at the thought of filling out taxes. I still do, but like, I do it anyway. And the only reason I do it is because these people showed me how. And I'm not talking about just people in a 12-step program. I'm talking about just other people who were sober that learned their shit. Apologizing when I'm wrong. That was like a foreign concept to me. And even once I'd learned it, my brain came up with ways to be like, but you're not wrong. You know what I mean? So like, there's all these tactics that my mind has like mastered to avoid responsibility in my own life. It never occurred to me before to truly adapt myself to fit life's circumstances. It was like, no, you try to arrange circumstances to fit your life. That's what I would try to do. I would try to manipulate other people or circumstances, or arrange things in a certain way so that I was happy, instead of just going, okay, this is the way that things are. I'm not happy with it, so let me just adjust myself. That shit blew my fucking mind when I got clean. I was like, wait, what? You're saying I can like pause and like take a breath and like accept this scenario? It was wild to me. So I did learn how to do those things slowly. I learned it through 12-step programs. There's other ways. I don't think that's the only way, but it is the way that I did it. And I just slowly began to put my life together one step at a time. And it takes so long, and and I still have so much fucking work to do on myself. It's like insane. I mean, there's 2 pieces of mail over there that, and this is something that when I was still drinking, was a major problem for me. The mail would stack up. I mean, like when I saw that the USPS was late, that things were like late, I literally, a part of my brain went, oh, thank God, I can't open all that mail that I have. So let's just put a pause on this. And that's how fucked I am with mail. I can't, it overwhelms me. All right. Like it's like, because it's never just a piece of fucking mail. It's never just it's never just information. You know what I mean? It's like information that then directs you to a website, and then you got to look up your fucking password, and then you got to find your goddamn credit card, and you got to pay somebody something that you don't even remember like purchasing. So fuck the mail, but also support the USPS because we need to get our votes in. Anyway, wow, I really went on I have no idea where I went just now. I think I blacked out. I have no idea what I just fucking said, you guys. I don't know where I started or how I got here, but we got lost. We're in the woods. Yeah, let's get into questions because truly I have no idea what just happened. Oh my God. Wild. All right. Hi, Rosebud. I'm a huge fan. I'm new to sobriety, 2 months sober. I plan on staying that way. But I come from a big Irish family where everyone drinks a lot. Also, besides my boyfriend, my whole friend group drinks often. How did you handle being around the people in your life that still drink when you got sober? Also, I'm in a wedding next June. Fuck. Also, I'm in a wedding next June. Bridesmaid in boyfriend's brother's wedding. How the hell do I do that sober? Okay. Also, I'm in a wedding next June. See, this is like you worrying when you're 2 months sober, worrying about a wedding that you're in next June when there's a pandemic that's probably going to stop that wedding from happening, if I'm being honest. You're worrying about affording the car you just bought on credit when you don't have a driver's license. Just don't fucking worry about it. The wedding, it's next June, honey. We could all be dead by then. And secondly, okay, 2 months sober is, see, I remember this time so fucking well because it was the first time in my life that I could remember anything. And I remember being like, everything has changed. Everything is, I've got it all together now. You know, I've figured out my life. Now, I don't know if you've gotten clean on your own. I don't know if you've gotten clean with the help of like a 12-step group or what. Your big Irish family, them drinking has nothing to do with you. Your friend group drinking has nothing to do with you. This is like the kind of thing where we start to go, oh, what will, because your concern is not for them. It's not like, what will they do without me drinking with them? It's what will you do when they're drinking around you? And the truth is, you might not be able to be around that. Like, you might have to stay away from them. And if they have trouble understanding that, you can say it's absolutely nothing personal. It truly isn't. I just want to give myself some time and some space so that I can adjust to my new way of living before I put myself right back into the old scenarios that I was in case I'm triggered, And I hate using that word, but like, this is just one of those things. You don't you don't like go to a fucking, like I didn't go to bars just to hang out when I had just gotten clean. It's stupid to do. So you just stay away from whoever it is that you think like whoever you can't be around. If there's a party of, like a wedding, or if there's a birthday, then you can go for that. You give them your you say congratulations. If you think that's something that you can handle, you go in, say congrats, be there for a little while, leave before you start to feel uncomfortable, and also know that discomfort is something that you are going to experience a lot of in sobriety, because life is uncomfortable. You just got to learn how to deal with it. Like, your feelings are going to pass. The discomfort's going to pass. You'll get through it. Take deep breaths. It's just fucking feelings. It's like, we think that if we're feeling bad, something bad has happened. And it's not true. You just feel bad. You'll feel better if you do things to make yourself feel better. If you just sit on your ass and you're like, I feel bad, and you do nothing, that's a different thing. Okay. Next question. Hopefully that helps. Congratulations on staying sober for 2 months, by the way. That's fucking incredible. That's harder than, I can tell you this honestly, 2 months is harder than fucking 12 years. And because it's so much harder in the beginning. Okay. Yeah, I think that pretty much addresses all of that. Your whole friend group drinks often. I will say this. I had a friend group that drank a lot, and I just wasn't around those people anymore. I just couldn't be. I was like, okay, new friends, but part of that was, it was easy to do because I was so excited to see what the fuck my life was going to look like when I stopped drinking, because it had been such a shit show for so long that when I put it down, I was like, all right, like, I know what happens if I drink. I have no idea what happens if I stay sober. So if anything, I was just making the choice to stay clean because I was curious about what the fuck would go on. I was like, I don't know if it's a choose your own adventure and one ends in killing yourself and the other one's just like unknown, you're going to pick the unknown route. So that's what I just thought of it like that. Okay, next question. Hi, thanks for allowing us to ask questions for you to consider for your podcast. My question is related to, this sounds like it was written by an IT guy, just like, this is very corporate. Somebody wrote from work. My question is related to support from family. My brother is an alcoholic and an addict. He's an amazing person, smart as hell, intuitive, kind, and funny. I just want to know how I can help him stay sober. Okay. All right. There's already a flag here, but okay. There are times when I know he's drinking again, even after being sober for like a year. And I reach out to him just to let him know I'm here for him, but I don't want to be a nag or have him think I'm only reaching out because I'm worried. I just don't want him to feel alone or ashamed. Anyway, anything your family did or didn't do that helped / would have helped on your path to sobriety. Thanks. Okay. All right. I truly, my heart goes out to you. There's nothing fucking worse than loving an alcoholic. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I promise you, you're probably in a lot more pain than he is. Okay. I'm sure your brother's an amazing person, smart, intuitive, kind, and funny. I'm sure he's all of those things. I'm sure you are also all of those things. When you have an alcoholic or an addict in your family, the desire is the desire to help, and the focus of the family is always on them. It is always on the addict. It's always on keeping the addict safe, or telling the addict that they're wrong, or trying to fix the addict's life to help the rest of the family, or trying to hide the addict's behavior to protect your mom or your dad or whoever's feelings. It basically becomes a fucking web of lies that we tell ourselves and that we tell each other. And there's just nothing fucking worse. So this whole email, even though you're writing it, is about him. There are times when I know he's drinking again, even after being sober for a year. And I reach out to him to let him know I'm here for him. But I don't want to be a nag or have him think that I'm only reaching out because I'm worried. I just don't want him to feel alone or ashamed. This email kind of, and this happens with a lot of people in relationships with addicts, this whole email ignores how you feel. It ignores the anxiety that you have. It ignores the ways in which you're trying to control him, even gently, so that you don't have to feel afraid for him. And I'm going to tell you something that was told to me, that when I was in a relationship with an addict who, while I was sober, and this was the hardest thing I've ever fucking heard, but I remember being in tears across from my therapist while my ex was on a bender. He was gone for 2 weeks or something. I would get calls every once in a while that he'd shown up at a friend's house bleeding and then disappeared. He would show up at my place with hospital like tape on him and that he'd pulled off and paperwork, and then he would disappear again. And he'd had seizures, all this shit, right? And I was like, I just want to help him. I just want to help him. And my therapist said to me, if somebody has decided on a soul level, meaning not consciously for themselves, but on, deep down, if they have decided to hurt themselves or to leave this planet even, do you honestly think that there is something that you could do to stop that from happening? And the truth is I can't, and none of us can. And that is the most painful thing in the world to admit. And that is why, as people who love alcoholics, we have to do something to take care of ourselves, because there's nothing that you really can do to help him. Any alcoholic who is actively using cannot be helped. Human beings cannot fucking help them. I really need to let you guys know this. There is nothing you can do. You can tell them that you'll be there for them if they get sober and that you will be happy for them. But anything you do to help an addict manage their fucking addiction is prolonging it. Giving them money, giving them a place to stay, giving them anything other than someone to listen to them, I really think is causing more harm than good. And that's speaking as someone who was an addict, and that is speaking as someone who loved an addict. The only thing to do is let go. That's it. It's the hardest thing. It's not the advice that you're going to want to hear, and it might not even be the advice that you're able to take at this point, but that is the truth. You can't force your family to let go. You can't force your family to move on. The only thing to do is detach. And I know that you even seem like you're doing pretty good with just like letting him know you're there for him. But he knows that you're reaching out because you're worried. And you know that you're reaching out because you're worried. So why say that you're not? there's a lot of lying to ourselves that goes on when we love an addict. And there's a lot of checking up on them. There's a lot of checking in. It's all trying to control them. It's all trying to help them stop drinking. And you can't. It's a disease. It's addiction. And you have no control over it. You have as much control over his drinking as he does. That's how helpless it is. And that's why it's such a fucking horrible fucking disease. But I think the only thing that my family did that helped was that they just let me go. They just fucking hands off. You know, they let me really fuck it up for myself. And I had no one at the end. And thank God I had no one, because if I had someone, I never would have fucking helped myself. I never would have just found whatever it was, that voice in my head that said, like, nobody can fucking help you. You got to help yourself. This is never going to stop. Go get help. Like that never would have happened to me if there was somebody else there being like, I love you. You're a good person. I'm here for you. No, I fucking wasn't a good person. And nobody needed to be telling me that at that point. You are what you fucking do. And all I did was hurt myself and hurt other people. And if I wanted to change that, I had to change what I was doing. So, look, I know that's like, Jesus Christ, I feel like I'm Oprah right now. I hope this episode isn't coming off really fucking self-righteous or anything like that. And I just want you guys to know that there's probably people in my own life listening to this episode just going, this fucking son of a bitch. Like, they're probably listening to it going, she's fuck Rosebud. Like, fuck what she's saying. Fuck anybody listening to her. So I want you to know, like, there's plenty of hypocrisy in my giving this information out. And there's plenty of areas in my life that I really fuck this up. So, and I just want to share the information that I have and let you know that I'm not a perfect example of it. Okay. In fact, I'm a pretty shitty example of a lot of it. Okay. Next question. And then we'll do some bad advice. I just want to say I love you, Rosebud. You're truly what's getting me through quarantine. Well, thank you very much. I love you too. Anywho, for the next pod about drug addict stuff, I love that. That might be the title. I have a lot of addiction in my family. Both my parents and 9 out of 10 family members are alcoholics. I sometimes question if certain things I do are alcoholic behavior. How do you know when it's too much? How do you know when certain habits may be out of control? Literally rip me apart on the pod if you read this. Yeah, I think most people who, I don't know, I feel like for the most part, if you're starting to ask yourself, how do I know when this is too much? You're probably in that area, you know? Like, I don't start asking myself, have I eaten too much, until I'm already feeling full. So, you know, there's that. How do you know when certain habits may be out of control? I don't know. Are you asking yourself the question, is this out of control? You know, I think it really just takes like an honest self-evaluation. And like sometimes taking a break just helps. You know, if you like take a break from drinking, you can kind of make that call, because it's kind of hard to honestly evaluate when you're still doing it. It's just harder to see clearly. So, you know, maybe, I know you wanted to be ripped apart, but this seems like an honest, like you're really just trying to ask yourself some questions that that people ask themselves when they start to question their drinking, you know? And I really do think that you're the only one who really has the answers to these. But like if your shoe's untied, you can feel it. You don't just go, I wonder if my down, you know? So like just give it a rest for a couple days and then see how you feel and see how hard it is. And does that help? I don't know. I really hate telling people what to do. So I think this is going to be your call. If I were in your position and I were asking these kinds of questions, I would probably just get blackout drunk for the next 3 years. But I think probably the better thing to do is take a break. Okay, last question. Were you worried that you'd still be funny after sobriety? Well, I did not. I wasn't trying to be funny when I got sober, and I wasn't a comedian until I was about 6 years in. So, would I want to start doing comedy? Jesus Christ. I mean, honestly, the idea of being a comic, trying to get sober and being like out every night the way things used to be, that shit seems impossible to me. I can't imagine trying to quit drinking and like doing spots every night. I mean, Andy did it. I don't know how the fuck he did it. I really don't. Well, I do know how he did it. He smoked weed for like 2 years straight, 3 years straight for just 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's how a lot of people try to get sober. But I don't know how the fuck I would do it. I really don't. I don't think being funny should be a concern, because I think that people are a lot funnier when they know what the fuck they're talking about and what they're saying. And I think that being sober kind of makes you think about your jokes and think about what you want to say. And because I'm a very written comic, I don't just go on stage and like ooze entertainment. I'm not somebody that can just talk and like be hysterical, you know? I'm more of a written, like, I like punchlines all the time. I like a well-crafted joke. And there's a lot of different comics and there's a lot of different ways to be funny. This punchlines and jokes are like, that's my way of doing it. I can't just like get on stage, talk, and be hilarious. So, if I was that kind of comic, I would be terrified. If I was the kind of comic that like had a couple, got on stage, just talked and made everybody laugh, yeah, that'd be fucking terrifying. I'd be very scared that I wouldn't be funny. But anyway, this is sort of a question that doesn't apply to me because I didn't start stand up until I was 6 years in to sobriety. And, I had very little pride left. And so, yeah. All right. Lastly, this is bad advice. Dear Rosebud, I've been an opioid addict since the end of my 10-year marriage 4 years ago. I used them to fill the hole in my heart where romantic love used to be. Hole in your heart, more like hole in your arm. Sorry. Okay. I was wondering if you could help me work out where to get a hold of better quality drugs. The ones I'm using are low quality and I want to upgrade. Well, goddamn, I think, Jesus Christ, I think this person's just trying to be funny, and I appreciate it because the rest of these questions have been so fucking serious. Yeah, I can. I'll help you. I can't help you work out where to get them, but I will say that maybe if you dabbled in crack, you could get better heroin because crackheads tend to be more motivated. Does that help? All right. Guys, that is today's episode of Devil's Advocate with Rosebud Baker. Thank you so much for listening to another solo episode. I love doing these. I'm thinking about maybe starting a Patreon and doing the solo episodes on the Patreon and doing the interviews as the regular podcast, but I'm not really sure yet. You can let me know your thoughts on that by writing to DevilsAdvocatePod.ATC at gmail.com. Let me know if we put these behind a paywall, would you do it? Would you go for it? And let me know anything else you're thinking. Feedback on the podcast, whatever. I love hearing from you guys. I love doing this podcast. It really it's helped me get through this bullshit. God only knows how fucking long this is going to go on. It is, guys, it's almost September. It's almost fucking September. 6 months. And we're not fucking close to being finished with this shit. What the fuck? Anyway, I love you guys so much for listening. Thank you. Share screenshots. Follow the podcast, DevilsAdvocatePod.ATC on Instagram. Tweet at me at Rosebud Baker on Instagram at Rosebud Baker. That's it. That's all I got to say. You guys are the best. Thank you again. I love you. Bye-bye.